The rain-slick streets of Seattle gleamed like shattered glass under the relentless downpour, and Elias Hawthorne stood frozen at the altar, his heart pounding a traitor's rhythm as the officiant intoned the fatal words. Declan Whitaker, the golden boy of the Whitaker tech empire, gripped Ellis' wrists with hands that trembled just enough to betray the lie, his blue eyes locking onto Ellis with a hunger that felt like a curse. In that moment, as the vows choked out like venom, Eli realized this marriage wasn't salvation. It was the noose head tied around his own neck, all for a family legacy crumbling like wet ash. Elias had always known the Whitaker name carried weight, the kind that crushed dreams underfoot in the boardrooms of Pioneer Square. But had never imagined it would drag him into this farce, a union forged in the cold calculus of corporate survival. His father's textile mill in rural Washington had bled out last spring, debts piling like autumn leaves until the only lifeline came from the Whitakers, whose algorithms and apps had swallowed half the Pacific Northwest. Marry Declan, they'd said, seal the alliance, save the Hawthorne legacy. Eli had laughed at first, bitter and hollow, because Declan Whitaker wasn't just any heir. He was the ghost from Ellis' college days at the University of Washington, the one who'd sneered at Ellis' quiet sketches in the art studio, calling them faggot doodles while his frat brothers howled. That history wasn't buried, it festered, and now it wore a tuxedo. The reception blurred into a haze of crystal clinks and forced smiles, the grand ballroom of the Edgewater Hotel overlooking Elliott Bay where ferries cut through the mist like forgotten promises. Ellis' mother, her silver-streaked hair pinned in elegant defeat, squeezed his arm as if to anchor him. "You're doing this for us, Eli," she whispered, her voice a threadbare veil over the desperation that had hollowed her eyes. He nodded, tasting bile, while across the room, Declan held court with venture capitalists, his laugh booming like thunder over Puget Sound. Tall and broad-shouldered, with that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow framing a jaw carved from granite, Declan looked every inch the conqueror, his dark blonde hair slicked back, suit tailored to perfection. But Eli caught the flicker, the way Declan's gaze darted to him every few seconds, heavy and unreadable, like a storm cloud pregnant with secrets. They escaped the crowd onto the hotel's private balcony, the city lights smearing into neon veins below. Eli lit a cigarette, the flame dancing in the wind, and exhaled smoke that curled like accusations. "So this is it," he said, voice low and edged with rust. "Mr. and Mr. Whitaker Hawthorne, or whatever bullshit they slap on the paperwork. You get your merger, I get to play house in your glass tower." Declan leaned against the railing, loosening his tie with fingers that betrayed a subtle shake. "It's not bullshit, Eli. It's necessary." His words hung there, clipped, as if he were reciting lines from a script he'd never wanted. Eli snorted, flicking ash into the void. "Necessary? Like you needed to remind me every day in sophomore year that I didn't belong. That my kind was a punchline for your beer-soaked glory." Declan's face tightened, the easy charm fracturing like thin ice. "That was a lifetime ago. People change." Eli stepped closer, the rain misting his lashes, close enough to smell the cedar cologne that clung to Declan like regret. "Do they? Because from where I'm standing, you're still the guy who made my life hell. Just now with a prenup instead of a fist." The words landed like slaps and Declan flinched, his hand rising as if to bridge the chasm, but it fell away. He turned to the bay, shoulders hunching against the chill. "You think I wanted this? Eli, you have no idea." The apartment Declan called home wasn't a place, it was a monument to excess, perched on the 32nd floor of a sleek condo in Belltown, walls of glass framing the Space Needle like a spiked crown. Eli moved in the next day, his duffel bag thumping against the marble floors like an intruder's heartbeat. The space screamed Declan. Minimalist furniture in gunmetal grays, abstract prints of crashing waves that echoed the turmoil Eli felt churning inside. He claimed the guest room, its king bed mocking him with crisp white linens, and spent the first night staring at the ceiling, the city's hum vibrating through the walls like a distant accusation. Mornings brought the grind of cohabitation, awkward as sand in a shoe. Declan rose at dawn, pounding out miles on the in-home treadmill while Eli nursed coffee black as his mood, sketching feverishly in a leather-bound journal head salvaged from his father's attic. The drawings were jagged now, lines of Seattle skylines twisted into thorns, faces half-formed and haunted. Declan would pause mid-stride, towel around his neck, sweat gleaming on his tanned skin, and watch from the doorway. "You're good at that," he'd say, voice rough from exertion. Eli wouldn't look up. Flattery won't make this less of a prison sentence. But cracks appeared in the facade, subtle as fog lifting. One evening, after a board meeting that stretched into dusk, Declan came home with takeout from a hole-in-the-wall faux joint in the International District, steam rising from bowls like fragile peace offerings. They ate on the couch, the TV murmuring some indie flick about lost boys in the Midwest, and for the first time silence didn't feel like a weapon. Declan pushed noodles around his bowl, then set it aside. "I remember your sketches from UW. The ones of the cherry blossoms in April. They were beautiful." Eli froze, fork midway to his mouth. "You made fun of them. Called them queerbait." Declan's jaw clenched, eyes dropping to his hands. "I was an asshole. Scared shitless of what I felt." Eli laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "What you felt? For the gay kid you tormented? Spare me the redemption arc, Whitaker." Yet the words lingered, seeding doubt in Ellis' soil of resentment. Nights grew longer, the rain a constant lullaby against the windows, and Eli found himself wandering the apartment when sleep evaded, tracing the spines of Declan's bookshelves, volumes on quantum computing mingled with dog-eared copies of Walt Whitman and James Baldwin. One shelf held a locked box, small and obsidian, tucked behind a row of hardcovers. Curiosity gnawed, but Eli resisted, slamming the drawer on his own prying heart. Instead, he turned to the balcony, where the city sprawled like a lover's indifferent back, and wondered if hate could curdle into something softer, more dangerous. Weeks bled into the rhythm of reluctant routine. Eli took a job at a graphic design firm in Capitol Hill, the neighborhood's rainbow crosswalks a balm to his frayed edges, while Declan jetted between Whitaker HQ and South Lake Union and Silicon Valley schmoozes. Dinners became habit, shared plates of salmon from Pike Place, conversations skirting the minefield of their past. Declan spoke of his father, the iron-fisted CEO who'd built an empire on the bones of innovation, demanding heirs who bent but never broke. Eli shared fragments of his own ghosts. A motherhood sewn dreams into quilts now moth-eaten. A fatherhood chased the American hustle until it buried him in debt. In those moments Declan listened, really listened, his blue eyes softening to the hue of a summer sky over the Olympics, and Eli felt the first thaw, a trickle of warmth against the permafrost of his grudge. But trust was a fragile bloom, and old wounds festered. At a Whitaker gala in the Olympic Sculpture Park, Eli stood sidelined in a borrowed suit, nursing a gin and tonic while socialites orbited Declan like satellites. A former frat brother, now a venture shark with a Rolex gleam, clapped Declan on the back. "Still slumming it with the artsy types, December. Heard you got hitched to that Hawthorne kid. What's the play? PR stunt for the rainbow crowd." Laughter rippled and Eli burned, the room closing in like a vice. He slipped out to the waterfront, the sculptures looming like silent judges, and lit another cigarette, hands shaking. Declan found him there, coat draped over Ellis' shoulders against the bite. "Ignore them," he said, voice low. "They're relics." Eli shrugged him off, smoke curling from his lips. "Relics like you used to be. You think one forced I do erases the bruises." Declan stepped closer, the space between them electric with unsaid storms. "It wasn't force for me, Eli. Not then, not now." His hand brushed Ellis' arm, tentative as a confession, and Eli jerked back, heart slamming. "Don't. Just don't." The gala faded into a blur of apologies unspoken, but the seed of fracture took root. Back home, Eli rifled through his sketches, tearing one of Declan's profile, sharp lines capturing the vulnerability he'd glimpsed. He crumpled it, guilt twisting like a knife because beneath the rage, something stirred. A pull had buried since those UW hallways, when Declan's taunts had masked glances that lingered too long. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting Queen and Hill in crimson and gold, and their marriage settled into an uneasy détente. Eli threw himself into work, designing logos for queer-owned cafes, the vibrancy a counterpoint to the monochrome of his days. Declan, ever the strategist, proposed a weekend getaway to the San Juan Islands, a sailboat christened the Whispering Gale slicing through the Salish Sea. Eli agreed, half out of exhaustion, half out of the ache to escape the city's judgmental pulse. The boat rocked gently at anchor off Orcas Island, stars wheeling overhead like scattered diamonds. They built a fire on the deck, flames dancing shadows across Declan's face as he uncorked a bottle of cab from Walla Walla. To fragile truces he toasted, glass clinking soft. Eli sipped, the wine tart on his tongue, and for the first time, let the silence wrap around them like a blanket. "Tell me why," he said finally, voice barely above the wave's lap. "Why the hate back then?" Declan stared into the fire, embers reflecting in his eyes. "Because you saw me. The real me, sketching alone in the studio, hiding from the bro code. I was terrified of wanting what you were brave enough to be." The admission hung, raw and exposed, and Eli felt the ground shift, resentment cracking to reveal the boy Declan might have been. All sharp edges masking a heart starved for light. They talked until dawn, words pouring like rain, Ellis' laughter surprising them both when Declan recounted a disastrous attempt at poetry, lines scribbled in the margins of a physics notebook. As the sun crested, painting the water rose gold, Declan reached for Ellis' hand, fingers intertwining with a gentleness that stole breath. This time Eli didn't pull away. Return to the city brought the illusion of normalcy, but the island's whisper lingered, a current beneath their shared glances. Eli woke to Declan's coffee brewing, the aroma weaving through the apartment like an invitation, and found himself lingering in the kitchen, hip against the counter as Declan portioned eggs with practiced care. "You're domestic," Eli teased, the word light on his tongue. Declan grinned, that rare, crooked smile that crinkled his eyes. "Only for you." The flirtation felt tentative, a bridge half built over churning waters, but Eli crossed it, brushing Declan's knuckles as he took his mug. Workdays blurred into evenings of quiet intimacy, Capitol Hill's pulse drawing them to dive bars where drag shows glittered under neon halos. One night at the Stranger, a cramped venue pulsing with bass, Eli watched Declan sway to an indie cover of Hosier, his broad frame loosening in the crowd, hand finding Ellis' waist amid the throng. Sweat-slicked skin pressed close, breaths mingling, and when their lips met in the shadows, it was fire, urgent and unpracticed, Declan's taste of whiskey and want flooding Ellis' senses. They stumbled home, shedding clothes like old skins, bodies colliding in the hallway with a desperation born of years denied. In the tangle of sheets, Declan was reverent, hands mapping Ellis' freckles like constellations, murmurs of sorry and please against collarbones. Eli arched into it, nails raking down Declan's back, chasing release from the ghosts that clung. Afterward, spent and sated, they lay entwined, Declan's fingers tracing lazy patterns on Ellis' thigh. "I loved you then," he confessed into the dark, voice muffled against Ellis' hair. "From the first sketch you showed in class, all wild lines and hidden storms. I hated myself for it, so I made you hate me instead." Eli stilled, heart fracturing anew. "You could have said something." Declan pulled him closer. "Cowardice is a family trait. But not anymore." Dawn brought vulnerability, the afterglow sharpening edges long dulled. Eli slipped from bed, padding to the balcony where the city stirred, fairies honking like weary lovers. He thought of his mother, her calls laced with cautious hope, and the letters from his father's old partners, whispers of sabotage that had toppled the mill. The Whitakers weren't saviors, they were sharks, and this marriage, for all its tenderness, was bait. Yet when Declan joined him, arms encircling from behind, chin on shoulder, Eli leaned in, stealing moments from the inevitable unravel. Holiday lights twinkled early in Belltown, strings of bulbs draping lampposts like festive nooses, and the Whitakers' annual gala loomed, a glittering trap in the Seattle Art Museum. Eli dressed in a charcoal suit, tie knotted with fingers that remembered Declan's touch, while Declan paced, phone glued to ear, voice clipped in boardroom baritone. "Father's on the warpath again," he muttered, tossing the device aside. "Wants us to announce expansion into Austin. Tie up loose ends with your family's old suppliers." Eli smoothed his lapels in the mirror, meeting Declan's gaze. "Loose ends like burying the truth about Dad's mill." The accusation landed soft but sure, and Declan winced, stepping close to adjust Ellis' collar, thumb lingering on pulse. "It wasn't us, Eli. The debts were real, the market crashed. But I'll dig if you want. Uncover whatever rot there is." Eli searched those blue depths, finding sincerity laced with shadows. "Promise me." Declan nodded, sealing it with a kiss, slow and grounding, tongues tangling like vows renewed. The gala swirled in opulence, chandeliers dripping light over gowns and tuxes, air thick with perfume and ambition. Eli navigated the crowd, champagne flute in hand, charming investors with designs head mocked up for Whitaker apps, interfaces with a human touch. Declan shone at center, pitching visions of augmented realities that bridged worlds, but his eyes tracked Eli, possessive and proud, until Victor Lang, Declan's uncle and shadow puppeteer of the board, cornered them by the Calder Mobile, its red curves twisting like lies. Victor was a viper in velvet, silver hair slicked, smile all teeth. Nephew, he drawled, clapping Declan's shoulder. And the blushing groom. Hawthorne blood, always so artistic. Eli stiffened, sensing the barb. Victor's gaze slid to him, appraising. Heard your father crossed us back in '98, skimmed contracts for that Texas deal. Cost us millions. Declan tensed, hand finding Ellis' lower back. Ancient history, uncle. Water under the bridge. Victor chuckled, low and oily. Bridges burn, boy. Just saying blood debts linger. The words slithered into Ellis' ear, poisoning the night. He excused himself to the terrace, chill wind whipping his tie, mind reeling. Had the Whitakers orchestrated the fall? This marriage of velvet glove over an iron fist. Footsteps sounded, Declan at his side, concern etching lines. What did he say? Eli turned, eyes stormy. The truth. Or your family's version. Declan reached, but Eli evaded. Dig deeper, you said. Start with your own house. Sleep evaded that night. Eli tossing in the guest room head reclaimed. Walls closing in with echoes of betrayal. Dawn found him in the kitchen, packing a go-bag with mechanical precision. Sketches and clothes folded neat as armor. Declan appeared, rumpled from fitful rest, blocking the door. Talk to me. Eli zipped the bag, shoulders squared. Your uncle dropped a bomb. Your family didn't save us, they damned us. For some grudge from decades ago. Declan's face paled, hands rising placating. I'll fix it. Confront Victor, audit the books. Eli laughed, hollow. Fix it like you fixed your feelings back in college. By pretending they don't exist. The standoff fractured. Eli shoving past, bag slung over shoulder, into the elevator that plummeted like his resolve. Streets slick with overnight rain welcomed him. Coffee shops blooming steam as he wandered Capitol Hill, crashing on a friend's couch in a walk-up overlooking Broadway. Texts from Declan piled. Please. Let me explain. I love you. Eli deleted them, thumb hovering over block, but something held, a tether of what-ifs. Days stretched into a haze of freelance gigs and bar crawls, the neighborhood's queer heartbeat a temporary salve. Eli sketched furiously, portraits of Declan emerging unbidden. Eyes that pleaded from paper. One evening buzzed on IPAs at a trivia night. His phone buzzed with a voice memo. Declan's voice raw found the files. Victor buried them, but your dad was clean. It was a setup, insurance scam gone wrong, pinned on Hawthorne to clear our rivals. I'm ending it. Coming for you. Eli played it on loop, heart warring with walls rebuilt. He showed up at the condo unannounced, rain sheeting off his jacket, finding Declan amid chaos, papers strewn like fallen leaves. You came, Declan breathed, rising from the floor. Eli dropped his bag, closing the distance. Not for forgiveness. For answers. They sank to the rug, documents unfurling like confessions, hours peeling back layers of deceit. Victor's greed had twisted the knife, forging the mill's collapse to consolidate power. The marriage a smokescreen for Ellis' unwitting role as pawn. Dawn crept in, gray light forgiving, and Eli leaned into Declan, exhaustion yielding to need. Forgive me, Declan whispered, lips brushing temple. For the boy I was. Eli cupped his face, thumbs tracing jaw. Forgive yourself first. Their kiss was salt and surrender. Bodies rediscovering paths worn tender. Love a quiet revolution against the empire's shadow. But peace was fleeting, Victor circling like a hawk scenting blood. A week later, he summoned Declan to the family estate in Medina, lakeside mansion with views of Lake Washington mocking their fragility. Eli insisted on coming, hand in Declan's, solidarity a shield. Victor waited in the study, leather-bound tomes flanking a desk scarred by deals, cigar smoke curling like threats. You've been busy, boy, he said, sliding a folder across. Proof your husband's father wasn't so innocent. Falsified ledgers, the works. Declan flipped it open, face thunderous. Forged. You think I won't trace the ink? Victor leaned back, eyes gleaming. Think bigger. The board's fracturing. Investors pulling out over this rainbow wedding stunt. Step down, let me handle the merger quietly, or watch Whitaker crumble. Eli gripped Declan's arm, voice steady. Blackmail now. Classy. Victor's gaze flicked to him, dismissive. Stay in your lane, artist. This is business. The drive back was silence thick as fog, Declan's knuckles white on the wheel. Eli broke it at a red light near Gasworks Park, ruin silhouetted against the bay. He's bluffing. We expose him. Declan nodded, but doubt shadowed his eyes. At what cost? My father's legacy, your freedom. Eli turned his hand over, lacing fingers. Our legacy now. Winter clamped down on Seattle, skies leaden and unrelenting, mirroring the storm brewing in the Whitaker empire. Eli and Declan fortified their bunker, the apartment a war room of laptops and legal pads. Allies rallied from Ellis Design Circle and Declan's ethical coder friends. They traced Victor's threads, digital footprints leading to offshore accounts and shell companies, a web spun from greed. Nights blurred into strategy sessions fueled by takeout ramen and black coffee. Declan's head on Ellis' lap as sleep claimed him, Eli stroking hair damp with sweat, whispering assurances into the dark. Intimacy became their anchor, love making a defiant act against the encroaching cold. In the shower, steam veiling the glass, Declan knelt, water cascading over broad shoulders, mouth worshipful on Eli, drawing gasps that echoed off tiles. Eli threaded fingers through wet strands, hips bucking, release crashing like waves on Alki Beach. Afterward, toweling off with lazy swipes, Declan murmured against Ellis' neck, "You're my compass." Eli chuckled, nipping earlobe, "And you're my storm. Don't capsized us." But Victor struck first, a leak to the Seattle Times painting Declan as the nepotistic playboy. Marriage attacks dodge, Hawthorne Mill collapse pinned squarely on Ellis' father as embezzlement. Headlines screamed from newsstands in Pike Place, vendors whispering as Eli bought oysters, cheeks burning under scrutiny. Back home, Declan paced, phone exploding with bored ultimatums. "They want my resignation by noon." Eli pulled him down, straddling lap, hands framing face. "Then we fight dirty. Go public your way." The press conference was Declan's gambit, staged in the museum's sculpture garden, wind-whipping notes from the podium. Cameras flashed like lightning as he laid it bare. Victor's machinations forged docs, the human cost. Eli stood flank, hand discreet in Declan's pocket, a silent vow. Questions flew, barbs about their union, but Declan parried, voice steel. "This isn't about orientation. It's about corruption rotting from the top." Eli squeezed, grounding him, pride swelling at the man emerging from the boy's ashes. Victor retaliated swift, filing injunctions that froze assets, painting Eli as gold digger and tabloid fodder. Friends drifted. Ellis' mother called tearful, begging distance. Isolation crept, but so did resolve. They holed up in a rented cabin on Whidbey Island, ferry ride a threshold to borrowed peace. Evergreens bowing under snow. Wood smoke curled from the chimney as they chopped kindling. Axes swinging in tandem. Laughter bubbling when Eli missed and Declan caught him mid-fall. Inside, flannel-clad and firelit, they slow danced to vinyl Dylan. Bodies swaying to Tangled Up in Blue, Declan's breath warm on ear. "Remember the first time I saw you dance," Eli whispered. "Studio party, you moved like you owned the shadows." Declan hummed, hand low on back. "Owned by you even then." Idol shattered with a knock at dawn, sheriff delivering papers. Custody of the marriage assets to Victor, pending fraud trial against Eli. Panic surged. Declan raging at windows overlooking Admiralty Inlet, fists clenched. "He's dismantling us." Eli pulled him close, foreheads touching. "Not us. Him. We lawyer up, hit back harder." Back in the city, allies mobilized. A pro bono attorney from the ACLU, queer activists amplifying on social feeds, coders hacking traces that exposed Victor's laundries. Eli designed the campaign visuals, stark graphics of shattered glass reforming into rainbows. Tagline: "Truth cuts deeper than lies." It trended, Capitol Hill rallies chanting their names, signs waving like flags of fragile hope. Yet the toll mounted, Declan thinning from stress, eyes hollowed snapping at shadows. One night, argument erupted over takeout gone cold, Eli accusing recklessness, Declan hurling isolation. Words escalated, Eli storming to the balcony, rain mingling with tears. Declan followed, apology dying on lips as Eli whirled. You loved me in secret but now it's poison. Declan cupped cheeks, thumb swiping salt. Never poison. You're the antidote. Forgive my fractures. They made up fiercely, clothes discarded in a trail to the bedroom. Bodies slamming with urgency, Declan pinning wrists, thrusts deep and claiming. Eli keened, legs wrapped tight, nails scoring shoulders, climax ripping cries that echoed absolution. Panting in afterglow, Declan traced bruises blooming like ink. I can't lose you to this. Eli kissed palm. Then don't. We're unbreakable. Trial loomed in federal court downtown. Monolith of justice amid skyscrapers. Victor preened in the gallery, suit impeccable, smirk ablade. Declan testified first, voice steady recounting ledgers, his father's blind trust in kin. Ellis' turn came, sketches submitted as evidence of timeline. Hand steady on stand despite stares. Why marry him? Counselor probed, implying motive. Eli met eyes across the room, Declan's anchor. Because hate was the lie we told ourselves. Love was the truth waiting. Verdict dropped like thunder. Victor guilty, empire fracturing under fines and seizures. Cheers erupted in the hall, hugs from strangers, but Eli saw only Declan, striding through the crush, lifting him in a spin that drew whoops. Free. Declan breathed, spinning slower. Eli clung, whispering hours. Spring unfurled tentative, cherry blossoms dusting Fremont like confetti. Their divorce from the farce marriage a quiet filing, replaced by commitment unscripted. Declan stepped down as heir, launching a startup for ethical AI. Ellis designs its soul. They bought a craftsman in Finney Ridge, backyard garden where Eli planted Irish heather. Declan built trellises with calloused hands. Evenings found them on the porch swing, rocking to cricket's chorus, fingers laced. One dusk, as fairies horn distant, Declan knelt, ring simple silver with emerald inlay. Not forced this time. Forever if you'll have me. Eli pulled him up, kissing fierce. Yes, 1,000 times. Their wedding was small, beach at Golden Gardens, waves lapping, vows exchanged barefoot, friends toasting with local IPAs. Eli in linen, Declan in chambray, rings sliding on with promises etched deep. As sun dipped, painting sky fire, Eli leaned into Declan, heart full. From despised to desired, Declan nuzzled neck. Loved you always. Eli smiled, whispering, and now we love loud. Summer hummed in Seattle, rare sun gilding the sound, and Elias and Declan savored the thaw. Their life a tapestry rewoven from threads of trial and tenderness. The startup bloomed in a co-working space in Ballard, fish market's aroma mingling with code compiles. Ellis branding infusing apps with intuitive grace that drew users like moths. Declan thrived sans the Whitaker yoke, laugh lines deepening, shoulders unburdened, while Eli exhibited sketches at a gallery in Pioneer Square, canvases of fractured men mending, titles like Silent Storms and Hidden Harbors selling to collectors who murmured of resonance. Yet echoes lingered. Victor incarcerated but venomous. Letters smuggled to Declan pleading parole support, met with silence. Ellis' mother visited, quilts in tow, eyes brightening at their porch garden, tentative approval blooming. You've built something real, she said over tea, hand on Ellis. Don't let ghosts haunt it. He nodded, squeezing Declan across table, foot nudging his under, a secret code of solidarity. Adventures punctuated routine. A road trip down Highway 101. Redwoods whispering ancient secrets in Olympic National Park. Tent pitched under stars where they made love to loons' calls. Declan's body a landscape Eli mapped anew. Back home they hosted dinners, mismatched chairs around oak table. Friends sharing stories of coming out crusades. Laughter weaving bonds tighter than blood. But autumn brought whispers of unrest. An anonymous tip to Declan. Rivals circling the startup, poaching talent with Whitaker ghosts. Paranoia crept, late nights pouring emails, Eli massaging tense knots from Declan's neck. Trust me, Eli soothed lips to spine. We've slain dragons before. Declan turned, pulling him astride, hands roaming. My knight in flannel. They tumbled, slow and savoring. Eli riding waves of pleasure. Declan's groans a symphony, release sinking like breaths aligned. Crisis peaked at a tech summit in Bellevue. Keynote sabotaged by hack slides accusing plagiarism. Declan froze on stage, spotlight harsh, but Eli in the wings signaled thumbs up, grounding. He pivoted, owning the error, transparency his shield, crowd applauding authenticity. Backstage, Eli enveloped him, kiss fierce. Hero. Declan grinned, nipping lip. Your muse. Winter solstice neared, shortest day mirroring their longest nights, and Declan planned a surprise. Flight to Austin, reconciliation with Ellis' estranged aunt, Texan roots calling. Air thick with barbecue smoke, she embraced them on the porch of her ranch in Hill Country, eyes crinkling. Boys like you give hope to old hearts. They rode horses at dawn, dust devils dancing, Declan whooping as Eli clung, wind whipping laughter free. Return brought Yule cheer, tree trimmed with ornaments hand-blown from Murano via a friend's trip, lights twinkling against fogged windows. New Year's Eve they climbed to Cary Park, skyline sprawling, fireworks bursting over the needle like stars reborn. Declan uncorked champagne, foam spilling giddy. To us he toasted, clinking plastic flutes. Eli leaned in, nuzzling. To secrets shared. Spring renewal saw Eli pregnant with ideas, a graphic novel pitch. Graphic memoir of forced vows to found love, panels raw with emotion. Declan read drafts by lamplight, eyes misty. This'll gut them in the best way. Eli blushed, crawling into lap. Like you gut me nightly. Declan growled playful, flipping positions, love-making languid, fingers interlaced, climaxes whispered endearments. Summer looped again, anniversary marked by vow renewal in the San Juans, same boat, seals barking approval as they exchanged etched bands. Friends sailed aboard, toast sloshing, Eli sketching candidates, capturing joy in lines fluid as sea. Yet depth demanded shadows. Declan confessed therapy dives into past cruelties, unpacking frat boy armor. Eli joined sessions, vulnerability a shared language, tears cathartic as rain. They volunteered at a youth center in Capitol Hill, mentoring queer artists, Ellis workshops blooming talents, Declan's talks on resilience sparking lights in wary eyes. One crisp fall eve walking Discovery Park trails, leaves crunching underfoot, Declan halted, hand to chest. Heart murmurs, Doc said. Nothing dire but watch it. Eli paled, gripping tight. We watched together. Hospital visits became ritual. EKGs beeping steady. Declan joking through IVs. Eli sketching waiting room vignettes, turning fear to art. Winter tested, snow blanketing the city rare and thick. Declan's episodes spiking stress. Eli curated calm. Herbal teas, forest baths and discovery. Bodies entwined by fire, slow explorations reaffirming life. In bed, Declan vulnerable. Eli topping gentle, praises murmured, release a healing balm. Spring heralded stability, meds tuned, Declan hiking stronger. Eli unveiling novel at a signing in Elliott Bay Books. Q snaking grateful. Declan front row, pride beaming. Afterward, celebratory dinner at Canlis, views eternal, dessert shared spooned, footsie under linen. Summer solstice, longest light, they camped in the Cascades, tint a cocoon star's canopy. Declan carved hearts in bark, Eli inscribing poems inside. Love-making under moon, urgent and eternal cries swallowed by pines. Autumn harvest, Eli proposed expansion. Family via surrogacy dreams. Declan teared, nodding fervent. Our legacy unbound. Winter wassail, friends gathered, toasts to futures seated. New Year's finny porch, lanterns glowing, Declan pulling Eli close. From despise to devotion. Eli smiled, kissing deep. And beyond. Their story wove onward, threads of trial tempering joy. A testament to hearts reclaimed. Love a rebellion soft and fierce. In Seattle's embrace they thrived, identities affirmed. Compassion the compass guiding true. Years folded like accordions, expanding moments into milestones. Elias and Declan's life a melody hummed against the city's ceaseless rhythm. The graphic novel soared, Optioned for a limited series by a streaming giant, Ellis Vision transposed to screen with indie grit, casting calls echoing their own odyssey. Declan consulted for nonprofits, AI ethics his crusade, speaking at TEDx stages where his vulnerability disarmed audiences. Ellis sketches projected backdrop, personal made universal. They pursued family, surrogacy journey, a labyrinth of hopes and heartaches, ultrasounds, grainy miracles. When baby arrived, a boy with Declan's blue eyes and Ellis freckles, named Rowan for the trees that bent but never broke in island winds. Their world tilted to coups and chaos. Nights fragmented by cries, days stitched with wonder, Declan pacing floors with lullabies off-key, Eli nursing bottles while sketching tiny fists. Parenting unveiled new facets, playgrounds in Green Lake, ducks quacking approbation, Rowan toddling between them, laughter bubbling pure. Challenges arose, sleep regressions testing tempers, but they tag-teamed, Declan's logic balancing Ellis' intuition, therapy a touchstone for modeling grace. Rowan's first words that split between them sealed bonds deeper. Family trips dotted calendars, coastal drives to Cannon Beach, Haystack Sentinel as they built sandcastles, waves licking toes. Austin reunions with Aunt, barbecues sprawling, Rowan chasing fireflies, kin mending across miles. Elias Studio expanded, annexed to the Craftsman a sunlit haven, commissions flowing from murals to book covers, themes of redemption recurring. Declan authored a memoir, Shadows to Code, proceeds funding scholarships for queer STEM kids, launches packed with allies who'd marched their trials. Yet shadows intruded subtle. Declan's heart whispered warnings, stints placed in quiet ORs, Eli holding hand through beeps, sketching nurses' faces fierce with care. Recovery was packed, diets enforced playful, hikes paced slow, intimacy adapted tender, positions shifting to accommodate, pleasure undimmed. Rowan grew, preschool finger paints echoing Ellis art, questions probing identities. Why two daddies? Eli knelt, honest. Because love wears many faces like the moon. Declan added, and ours lights the way. School conferences brought pride, teachers praising resilience, playdates forging friendships diverse. Summers sailed the San Juan's annual, whispering gale creaking under added weight. Rowan manning tiller, wind in curls. Winters wove cozies, cocoa mugs steaming, stories spun of their courtship, sanitized for tiny ears, Rowan giggling at forced wedding tales. Anniversaries layered. 10th at the altar site, vows whispered over cake, friends toasting endurance. Eli gifted a portrait, them aged graceful, Declan's eyes still stormy seas. Declan reciprocated with deed to island plot, cabin sketched in blueprint. Community anchored. Centerboard seats, fundraisers headlined, impact rippling to lives changed, a teen mentee coming out bold, crediting their example. Victor's release passed unmarked, letter returned unopened, past a scar faded. Rowan's adolescence bloomed thorny, crushes confessed tearful, Eli sharing first heart flutters, Declan modeling consent. Coming out at 16, rainbow pin proud, they hugged fierce, cake baked celebratory. Empty nest loomed eventual, but they filled with travel. Amalfi Cliffs echoing laughter, Tokyo neon mirroring memories, each stamp a chapter. Elder years crept benevolent, silver threading hair, hands veined mapping lives. Declan retired first, garden tended joint, veggies harvested for soup simmered slow. Eli taught workshops, legacy pass verbal. Final autumn leaves gold as rings, Declan weekend bed-bound gentle. Eli read Whitman aloud, voice steady, hand clasped. Regrets. Declan shook head. You every dawn. Eli kissed brow. And dusks. Passing was peaceful, dawn light slanting. Eli holding through last breath. Rowan at side, circle complete. Grief carved hollow but memories filled. Laughter lines, love letters yellowed. Eli endured, sketches softening to memorials. Gallery show remembrance a catharsis, visitors weeping shared. Rowan fathered in turn, grandkids tumbling gardens, Eli storytelling their epic. Decades distilled to essence. From forced vows to boundless love, a narrative of compassion conquering contempt, freedom forged in authenticity, identity the truest inheritance. In Seattle's rain-washed grace, Elias' heart echoed eternal. Loved in secret no more. The veil thinned further with time. Elias' days a mosaic of quiet honors and profound solitudes. Seattle's drizzle a companion to reflections deep as the Duwamish. Rowan's family swelled, holidays raucous with little ones chasing echoes of his youth. Eli the patriarch spinning yarns of daddies who danced in storms. He mentored still, studio door ajar for prodigies, critiques laced with the wisdom Declan had burnished in him. Art isn't perfection, it's pulse. Travel beckons solo now, pilgrimages to roots. Irish cliffs where ancestors whispered resilience. Winds carrying freckle-kissed ghosts. Austin ranches, Aunt's legacy and wildflowers. Barbecues bittersweet sans Declan's whoops. San Juan sails, charters with old crew. Whispering gale groaning salutes to absent helmsman. Health's ebb brought assists, cane carved Rowan, paths paced deliberate. Heart echoes his own, checkups ritual Eli joking docs with sketches caricatured kind. Community cocooned, center naming wing Hawthorne Whitaker, plaque gleaming, for love's unyielding light. Memoir sequel penned, Eli raw, vulnerability veiled in verse, bestseller bomb. Screen adaptation premiered, red carpet skipped for home viewing with kin, tears sinking with credits roll. Grandkids queried great love, Eli albums thumbed, photos faded vivid. Wedding sands, island dawns, hospital grins. Stories unfolded unvarnished now, despises alchemy to devotion, lessons layered. Betrayal bends but truth-telling straightens. Winters warmed by fireside, books Declan's annotated margins conversed, Eli tracing notes faded. You always. Springs planted heather defiant, summers harvested stories, autumns harvested peace. Final sketch unfinished. Two figures entwined against skyline, lines blurring to ether. Easel left open, invitation eternal. In twilight years Eli wandered parks, bench by green lake claimed habitual, ducks expectant crumbs. One eve sunset gilding waves he felt pull gentle Declan's voice in breeze. Come love. Passing came dreamlike, bed sun-dappled, Rowan hand-holding grandlings hushed. Last breath sighed content vision Declan waiting arms open. Legacy lingered. Arts ignited hearts emboldened, a lineage of love loud against silences once imposed. From forced heirlooms to heir hearts, their tale whispered. In authenticity's forge, compassion crafts the soul unbreakable, freedom the ink of identity's boldest script.